Hi there, Emily Eldredge here with Emily International. I'm creator of the Drawing Out process and discoverer of emPowers and exPowers. In a previous video, I explained the creation of the Drawing Out process and how that came to be, so you can listen to that for that good information. But in this video, I'm going to talk about how I discovered the emPowers and the exPowers. And interestingly enough, the exPowers came first. I was doing the drawing out process, I was working with people all over the place, and what I discovered is that people would draw out these parts of them, and different people's parts would say the same thing, and it would be people who didn't even know each other. So I'd be in session one place, and that person's, that part of them, that monster, that inner demon, would say one thing, and then all of a sudden in a totally separate session, another part of a person would say the same thing. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. Maybe there's a pattern that I can discover here. And so sure enough, I strewed everything out on the floor, my drawings, my clients' drawings, and I thought, I'm going to find the pattern. And pretty soon, in about an hour and a half, I did. And I discovered that the energies of the different ones, there was a pattern in their energies, that some of them were very controlling, very critical, very pushy, very oppressive. There was, in some way or another, they were trying to control. So I came to call those controllers. And then there were other ones, though, who instead of trying to control, they would contract, they would retract, they would retreat, and they were scared, they were sad, they were wounded. And so I came to start calling those woundeds. And then the third type, they weren't trying to control, and they certainly weren't trying to retract, but they were trying to block. They were trying to protect the person in some way or another. And so I came to call those defenders, because they were trying to defend the person or to defend another part inside of the person. So that's how the exPowers came to be, the controllers, woundeds, and defenders. So I was doing sessions with people, and then I was being invited to speak, and I was speaking in places about these quote-unquote inner demons, and I did my TED Talk, The Truth About Inner Demons. And so I talked about them, and I would talk about them in such a way that it was like, well, they needed to be fixed or they needed to be healed, and I would talk about them in kind of negative terms. So cut to about 2011, I was in my bedroom, and there was a part of me that was coming up, and it was very, very angry. She was this very imperious, powerful, feminine energy that was very angry. And so I thought, well, let me just draw her out, because this is a lot of energy for me to carry. So I drew her out, and pretty soon as I was drawing her, I started to get this monologue of words that were coming out. And so I thought, well, let me just write those down. So I wrote them down, and out came about 2 to 3 pages of what she was saying to me. And what she said was, Emily, you need to stop. You need to stop talking about us as though we're negative, or we're bad, or we're awful, or we're flawed, or we need to be fixed, or somehow we need to be removed from the person. She said, we're not that. She said, you need to start talking about us as we're your powers. We are not bad. We are parts of your power, and you need to start telling the world that. The world needs to hear that. And so she completely shifted my perception. And I thought, all right, then I guess I'll listen to her. I mean, she really called me out on the carpet, frankly. And I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to her. So I started looking again at the drawings and what these exPowers were turning into in the middle of sessions. And by the way, I didn't call them exPowers at the time. I called them inner characters. But I started to look at then, okay, so what's the pattern here? And I looked at the exPowers. And I discovered that each one of them did and does correspond with powers that we carry within us. And so for the controllers, I came to call that power that they represented, the power that they represented was this very rational, reasonable, very conscientious about other people, structured, organized, strategic part of us. I came to call that the inner impresario. That's what controller energies actually represent within us, is the part of us that's very rational and reasonable and just wants to make sure that everything's okay. It's very much about survival. The second one, I discovered that the woundeds actually represented and were turning into these beautiful, sweet, joyful, playful, creative, loving parts of us that I call the inner free spirit. It's that childlike, playful, creative, expansive, wonderful energy. And then the third, the defenders, I discovered that actually what they represent within us is what I call the sovereign. And it's the very wise and courageous and intuitive and strong part of us that knows what is right and wrong independently for us. Never mind what anyone else thinks or feels. It knows what's right for us. It knows our truth. So I call that emPower the inner sovereign. And so that's how I discovered the emPowers. Is actually the discovery came out of the exPowers. I discovered the exPowers first, and then it became, they guided me to the emPowers. So I really honor those exPowers. They're the reasons why we know about emPowers. Because of them, because they guided me to discover, and now I get to share with people around the world, that what we see about ourselves that's bad or wrong or flawed or weak or needs to change or that we need to resist or hide, no, that they actually represent really loving, wonderful, powerful, wise, intuitive, sweet, devoted parts of us that aren't here to disempower us. They're here to empower us, and that we're here to embrace them fully. And in doing so, we embrace ourselves and we love ourselves fully. And then in doing so, we can live the lives that we're here to live and be the presences that we are all here to be in the world. So that's how exPowers and emPowers, that's how I discovered them. And I'm excited to share them with you and excited to share them with the world and to teach people how to truly honor their emPowers and heal their exPowers. So with that said, thank you so much. Until we talk again, my name is Emily Eldredge with Emily International, discoverer of the drawing out process in emPowers and exPowers.